welcome to another edition of Maximum Growth Live. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, CEO of FirmFlex, as well as managing partner of Ruane Attorneys, a criminal defense and civil rights firm in Connecticut. With me, as always, my good friend, my amigo, and I just got to spend a good solid 4 days with him, so I've got a huge smile on my face. That man over there, Seth J. Price. Seth, how you doing this week?
Doing well. Max Law was quite a trip, and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great. And one of the great things about it is I got to see all the people from Blue Shark. You had a lot of people. For people in our audience who don't know what Blue Shark is Seth's passion play. It's SEO for lawyers and service professionals. But really for lawyers is where Blue Shark got its start because it came out of your firm, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So
it was essentially our in-house digital.
So you had Nalini there, but you had some other members of your team there because you have a lot of clients in the community, and it was really cool getting to talk with your Blue Shark people and really getting to engage with them. I know my people at FirmFlex really spent a lot of time with the Blue Shark people, and it was a lot of fun for all them to get together. All those millennial Gen Z people doing what they do.
With a couple dozen clients in the room, we took the extra time to bring some of the account reps, for lack of a better term, who are sort of like part of the sausage baking so that they could do check-ins. It's a lot cheaper to visit everybody in St. Louis than it is to fly around to people's offices. So got a lot of quality one-on-one time with clients around the country and, talked to a lot of people who are sort of, considering whether to dip their foot into digital and had some really nice conversations there as well.
Yeah, it's funny. After all of this, after talking, one of my marketing director is also part of FirmFlex, and she was chatting up with some of your people, and she reached out to me and said, we should really consider Blue Shark. And so that's something that I need to have a we won't do it here live.
To be fair, you get the best of Blue Shark without paying for it. But I have a feeling. It's something that a business truism. I have a lot of business truisms, right? One is the book I have not written, which is people suck, no good deed goes unpunished, and you can't teach common sense, with the afterword that money solves almost any problem. But if I were to have a second afterword, it would have to do with the favor economy. And it works greatly, but whenever I have a contractor come to my house, oh, no, I'll do that as a favor. I'm like, no, I need to pay for it. When you don't pay for it, there's not an actual deliverable. Might happen, might not. But much of life is there somebody to yell at if that doesn't work? And that's, to me, part of the reason. So it's a funny conversation because you and I spend countless hours talking about how you should structure stuff. My team has worked with you on issues that have come up in your site, but it's not the sort of normal client vendor relationship, so to speak. And it is funny how your staff is like, we need more of that and not just the, Jay talking to Seth and getting our stuff straight.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. We've been suffering from this GMB problem that has come up over the last 6 weeks. Our leads were down and that type of thing. And we got verified by GMB. We thought everything was going, and then they combined profiles and that type of thing. And you know what I did when I did what I should have done at the beginning. I took a few steps back and I was like, you know what? I never updated that NAP in Moz so that went out across all Axiom and all of those listings. And so that's why the GMB wasn't moving my office from one to another, because all of the other signs online, despite me saying, hey, move it, all of the other signs online was like, no, our office was still in Weathersfield. And that,
right.
That's
so
something
Blue Shark, just to give you an idea, we've moved beyond Moz. We have a whole system that does this by hand and automated. But the idea being that when we move something, that's just a given. It's instinctual and it's done. So it's fascinating to see what happens. There are certain things you can do by yourself, and there's certain pitfalls when you do it yourself.
And I'm a perfect example of that. It took me 6 weeks to the light bulb going, but oh, wait a minute, I forgot to do that part of it. I started with step 2 instead of step 1. And I was so excited, running with these new offices that I think now we're getting it all straightened out. Things are already better. And we should be good by the end of this week. So, but it's one of those things that, sometimes you do need a professional to help. I just put in 4 new toilets in my house. I had a plumber and can put them in. I can set a toilet, but I had a pro do it because I don't want, I don't want the stuff flushing into the kitchen. I
No,
wasn't about to
absolutely.
take
I'll give
that
you an
risk.
example. The greatest highlight to me, pivoting away from this slightly, of Max LawCon was walking down the halls and finding all these people that listen to us on a week-to-week basis. You and I sit here in a vacuum, and when we may get a comment here or there, I did not realize how many people were regular listeners quoting back shows to us. It was quite humbling. One person, as they were getting out of their SUV from the airport and passed me by the entrance, like, I'm listening to you as I walk, and it was like, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. It is. We are blessed. There's a lot of listeners in that community. I want to talk a little bit about the day that not many people got to see because it was the very first day, the Monday, and you and I were blessed to be able to lead masterminds for the guild. And for those who are listeners who are either new listeners or listening to this months from now, and you're just learning about us. The Maximum Lawyer Guild is a separate members-only association of lawyers that has a lot more than what's going on in the big Maximum Lawyer group or in the Maximum Growth Live group, that type of thing. And that's something I want to talk about. But the Maximum Lawyer Guild put together, I guess, like 60, 80 people. So 5 groups of 12. So what's that? I can't do the math, but that's 70, 60?
60.
See, I can divide by a third.
Yeah,
that's why I went to law school. I can divide by a third. That's about it. But yeah, so 60 people there really working on some of their things. Now, in my group, we had a lot of people talking about vision, and that was awesome because it really, we had some people who were trying to do too much. Because they had come from general practice areas and they got over the I have to be everything to everyone, which I think helped them. We had some transformative sessions. So let's talk a little bit about your people because I didn't, obviously you're sworn to secrecy, and I'm not going to reveal any confidences. But my people really worked on vision and where they want to be. What was yours like?
Well, it was interesting because it was humbling to see sort of like where you've come from in the sense that these are people with the issues that you had, a decade ago. But one of the things that was really gratifying was, and this is not normal in a mastermind, we had about a third of the group that had actionable items that were going to solve the problem they came with. They said, I have a problem, and there was a finite issue. I'll give you a clear example. So there's somebody who had an employee, and there was a question about retention, and they got an okay salary with a discretionary bonus that they were planning on paying out. And the sort of, group came back with, hey, turn that into a not discretionary, but a bonus structure that gives that person a number they know they're going to get when they hit certain metrics. And secondly, there was a question of like, there was a piece of the person's job they didn't love. Eliminate that. Take that and reassign it. If it's a nominal thing, that game of chess is not to be underrated. Like, there's a lot you can do moving those pieces around. And in this case, I was confident that person's going to go back with a better, happier employee that's going to solidify the firm at their stage. And that was just a great moment. There were 2 or 3 others of those where there was a finite issue that if you went back and took these steps based on everything you, I, and other people who've been in the trenches know, they would be better off. So that was cool. I'd say the other common theme was, what do you want to be when you grow up? You call it vision, but to a certain extent, it was very hard for anybody to give advice or perspective if the person themselves didn't know where they wanted to go. And we've heard that over time. All the good coaches we had come through our show talked about that the first question they need to know is, where do you want to get to? Otherwise, how are you supposed to get yourself there? And that was readily apparent, something that I probably, having been an accidental law firm, an accidental agency to a large extent, much longer topic, the idea that, when you have a beacon, it is much easier to get to that point. And when you see people like Ryan McKean, these were not people from our group, but people like Ryan McKean or the Jersey Boys, where they know where they want to go. It's a pleasure to watch that journey because where the beacon is and you can see them going there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about day one, because day one, was a kickoff. It was really, one of the great things about a thing like Max LawCon is that, as you've been part of the community for a while, and as you participate in the group, and the guild and that type of thing. You develop these long-standing relationships with people that are all basically online. And then when you finally do get together, it's really sort of a wonderful experience. It's almost like a college reunion, but you never went to college together.
Or imagine if you went to an online college and then you had your in-person reunion. That, like, there were several people I swore I had broken bread with, and they were like, "No, we just been on a ton of Zooms together."
Yeah, yeah, and that's really cool. I mean, that's one of the wonderful things. I mean, I know that very first day I wound up in the bar pretty late in the casino with a bunch of people that you'd see their name, you saw their profile pic, but now you can really sort of drill down into things. And it was a lot of fun just chatting up with people and sort of catching up. Day one, some of the highlights. I mean, obviously, I was lucky enough to speak on day one. Even just kicking it off with Freeze, I thought that was a great presentation. There was so many good things. And if you're watching, if you're listening, make sure you're letting us know what your takeaways from day one were down in the comments, because obviously we want to have more discussion about this program. That's one thing that Seth and I talked about. So be sure to let us know down below what some of your highlights from day one of Max LawCon were. Seth, anything jump out at you as something that you recall as being great?
On an emotive level, Jim kick off the day. I loved your presentation. I loved talking to Tyson about, normally Tyson and I just talk for hours. It was great to be able to do that in front of an audience. I thought Russ Nesevich was really one of the best presentations I've heard in a while. He's a great speaker, but it was a combination of the emotive, which I discount generally. It's great. The stories are great. Yeah. What's going to make me money? But he told his story about how he made money, and I feel like there were takeaways from that. I'm a takeaway guy. People are like, where is the list? What are the action items when you go home? And emotive is great, but making money is even better. And again, emotive can help you make money, but those actual things that you can go back and say, I'm going to do this now when I get home. And I felt like Russ talked about the steps he took, the risks he took, and that put that process in place. So to me, that was one of the highlights.
Yeah, one of the things about doing what we do and being legal entrepreneurs really is we are, I guess, comfortable or more accepting of a higher level of risk of many of our colleagues. Most lawyers their job is really to downplay risk, right? I mean, it's to provide, here's all the risky things that you can be doing, and a lot of us sort of charge head on into risk because we've decided that we're going to do our own thing our own way. And the good thing about Russ is that when I saw it too is you can tell he's done a lot of presentations in his role as a financial advisor over the years. He's very comfortable in front of an audience, and that's one of the things that I think they did a good job selecting speakers that really do well presenting. And I think that's certainly something that you can go to a lot of legal seminars. And unfortunately, at most continuing legal ed seminars that I've been to, it is basically a demonstration that a person can read from their slides. And that really didn't happen here at Max LawCon. The people who were speaking knew their stuff, and the slides were where you took some notes. But you could reach out to like Billy and say, hey, I want to talk to you about changing my stuff. And she knows what she's talking about, regardless of the slides that are in front of her. And with you and Tyson too on day one, there was some great stuff, some deep stuff there that I think aspirationally people could attack and say, in a couple of years I'm going to be where Seth is at, and some of the things that you have had to consider over time. We talked a little bit about you losing your office manager to a motorcycle accident and that type of thing. That's like getting hit by a bus, right? Like you talked about it.
That's exactly it.
That's exactly it. So, you could really do a lot by coming to a conference like this.
And I'll say something, it's funny because you always talk about I want takeaways, but I'll give examples of one that was not takeaway driven, but Chris Nicolason, who really showed up at Max Law, and then Max, it was, and a John Fisher event, I believe, is where it may have kicked off for him. And a lot of people reference the John Fisher Mastermind as being their launch pad, who had become very successful. But when you saw something, this wasn't about his wasn't about takeaways like it was going to show you how to make a buck. But the idea that leveraging these groups from Fisher's Mastermind to Max Law and Max LawCon showed his path. And his path has been a rather successful one. He was in a sort of a mid-level non-PI market. And he said, you know what, I see in my market to make the money I want and have the lifestyle I want, I need to pivot. And it's kind of unusual in such a short period to see a pivot successfully be made and to see how he leveraged these groups to do it. I thought was, look, you need your tribe. And if nothing else, these groups have left us a tribe that makes us, enjoy the process as well as have a group to fall back on, which is equally important.
Yeah, you and I both come from the criminal defense field, specifically DUI defense. And, from the DUI defense perspective, a lot of us in that field would often go to seminars, and then after the seminars around the bar, that's where we were relegated to talk business. And there was a certain segment of the group that didn't want to talk business at all, at events. And then there were us, right, and then there were people like us who that's why we're there, to find other people that are in the business we're in and learn from each other. And that's the cool thing about Max Law is like I'm learning from PI lawyers what they do, because their sales process is different. They're not looking for that credit card, but a guy like Marco Brown who needs to get paid up front, just like we do, and get that money in the bank. We can talk about sales and the sales cycle and getting people to hire us. And that's something that I never would have considered before I was part of this community.
Well, I find this funny because people would walk up to us. How do you know Jay? Like, you guys seem to have known each other for years. And the truth is, there was no Max Law. There was no Fisher Mastermind. We went to seminars, and we were the only 2 of 3 people in the nation that we knew of in the criminal space talking this way, having these conversations. So before it was just you and me having a phone call. That's part of the reason, even though both of our firms have sort of scaled beyond it, we know the value of this group, and it didn't exist, and frankly doesn't exist even at the higher level. So we're sort of not only stuck, but like this, this is what we've always wanted, is this type of community.
Yeah, and it truly is a community. I mean, you could sit. Every day I sat with different people at breakfast and at lunch. And everyone was welcoming, and everybody wanted to know my thoughts on a topic, and then they wanted to give their opinion on my issues, because I would share with them the issues that I had going on. And that's another thing that I think, a lot of the speakers, you go to some other seminars and they paint this picture that everything is always rosy. And you and I both know it's when you're not a law entrepreneur, it's not always rosy.
Well, let me ask you a question. There's a lot of great positive stuff. Let me ask you one question, which I always struggle with, and you've talked about this a bit, which is, when somebody posts something on Max Law in let's say the Facebook group, and it's vetted more at these symposiums, but there are a lot of opinions given. How do you recommend that an individual sift through that? I think a lot of what I've done, and I feel like I've earned the right to sort of opine on certain things, but when you read a list, there's no like, hey, this is my gross revenue for life. This is my profit margin. There's none of those data points that go along with the opinion. A lot of people say, opinions are like a body part. Everybody's got one. But how do you suggest to our audience who are trying to sift and determine which of these different data points you crowdsourcing? Are there people you listen to more than others? What are your thoughts on that? Because I was thinking about that a lot during the conference.
That's a really interesting question. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take a quick break? We'll hear from our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to talk about that question as well as day 2, some final thoughts, and where we plan to take Max Growth Live. So, folks, stick around. We'll be right back with more Maximum Growth Live. Hi, I'm Jay Ruane, one of the founders of FirmFlex and a practicing attorney for over 20 years. Anyone who knows me knows how my firm runs on the systems we create, and it has allowed us to flourish, even in tough times. I spent years and hundreds of thousands of dollars until I finally figured out a way to engage my audience and drive top-of-mind awareness with social media. And what did I do once I figured it all out? I built a system for it, and now you can put that system to work for you. You see, we took the hard part, creating the content and finding the images, and made it foolproof. Every day you will have curated social media topics to post designed to make your firm constantly remind your audience about your firm, what you do, and how you can help. And the best part? You don't even need to hire a dedicated social media person to do this for you. In fact, you don't even need to hire anyone new. We designed the system to make it easy for you to delegate to your receptionist, assistant, or paralegal and have them execute solid social media for you in just 5 minutes a day. It's like having a content writer, researcher, and graphics designer at a fraction of the price it would cost to hire in-house. Sign up today for the Social Super System and start building your brand where your clients already are, on social media.
In this world today, if you want to grow your business, you want to grow your firm, you want to take on more cases and make a bigger impact, you have to have a digital blueprint. Statistically, throughout the time that we've been working with Blue Shark Digital, our law firm, the Atlanta Divorce Law Group, grew over 1,400%. They truly understand where we're headed and how we want to get there. I have a team in Blue Shark Digital that I feel like has my back.
And we're back. And so the question that Seth posed to me was, when you're in a community, maximum lawyer community is what, like almost 5,000 people at this point. And yes, there's some vetting of the questions, and then there's some responses that go along with it. For me, I tend to look at everything a little bit critically, and I want to know, if somebody is answering a question, what experience do they truly have, right? Because it's very easy for a solo with a part-time VA to opine about employees and employee management or scaling something, but they can have an opinion, but they wouldn't necessarily have done it. So I look to see the people who I've seen they have scaled their firms over time. Over 3 or 4 years, you can scale pretty revolutionary to go from year 1 to year 4, right? In a 3-year time period. And I also look at the quality of the commentary that they've done before. If other people rely on them and that type of thing. So there are people in the community that I would give more credence to. Like for you, I mean, if you're talking about SEO and somebody's out there and there's some schmo who's I've never heard of, who's saying, with my Scorpion site, my SEO is this, this, and this. And I know Scorpion. I know they're a pay-per-click, powerhouse. That's how they get you based on, ever increasing spend on pay-per-click. I'm going to say, well, they may not have had the life experience. My kids can tell me all about the great food in the world, but they really haven't been anywhere to be able to tell me how great food is. They'll tell me how great grilled cheeses are in Orlando, in New York City, and in Bridgeport, Connecticut. But somebody who's a world traveler, they'll have a different experience. So I want to make sure that they have a body of knowledge that they're working from. And I like people who say, my opinion isn't the only opinion, but here's why I would back it up with some facts. And I'm not looking for people to necessarily tell me what their gross revenue is and their annual revenue. That actually came up right before the conference. There was a question about, someone said, it should be a third profit, a third for expenses, and a third for salaries of employees. And I'm like, I look at my numbers and it's not broken down that way. I tend to spend more on branding and marketing and that type of thing, and I take home less, specifically because it allows me to have the lifestyle that I want. I'll hire more staff so I don't have to do certain things. What are your thoughts about, when should somebody take the advice of somebody in a Facebook forum?
Well, look, obviously, the whole idea of social proof that we're seeing now, whether it be travel or restaurants, if I see a restaurant and Jay gave an Italian restaurant a positive review, that means a lot more to me than some schmo. At the same time, you don't always have the benefit of that. I'll take it back personally. So I feel like I've done a lot of good things in scaling the firm, leveraging digital. But one of the things that I saw a lot of people at Max Law do, which I'm sort of a student of, and meaning a student rather than a teacher of, would be sort of automations. I see a lot of people doing incredible stuff with automations, and I am behind the curve on that, admittedly, within my law firm. Digital agency does all sorts of great stuff as far as, systems, but it hasn't moved there. So now I'm sort of looking introspectively, who are those people? Because something is hard to tell. And, I know that I've looked not within the Max Law community, but another one of these affinity communities where some of the people that are sort of like sitting next to the leaders on stage and doing all these things turn out to be upside down and bankrupt. And it's tough because, a lot of what we get is unverified numbers. I get this a lot. I'm always looking for like vetting shiny objects to see what's there, whether it be a YouTube play or a social play or something that even Jay Ruane hasn't figured out. I'm looking at these things and I'm like, well, they sound great, but is this real? Or is this just a great story and nobody can vet it because it's not like it's a real estate transaction where you can look at the public records. You have people telling you revenue and numbers of cases with absolutely nothing backing it up. And I've seen that over and over again where people tell you how to do stuff. And when you ask them for their own numbers, they're paying $2,500 to $5,000, let's say, per injury case. That's not great.
Right.
Like there are a lot of other ways to make a buck. So it's a combination of knowing you want to do stuff, but it is definitely a frustrating process sifting that out.
Yeah, and I mean, the reality is the buyer has to beware in any situation. I think whenever you get lawyers talking about business anywhere, there's going to have to be some level of puffery that you're going to have to discount just because, I'm not going to talk about the fact that, we had to give a $100,000 refund last month. I'm going to talk about my gross revenue numbers. I'm not going to tell you what the net was, because the top line is for vanity. The bottom line is for sanity, right? And people want to give the impression maybe even that they're a little more successful than they are.
One side is fake it till you make it.
Right.
The other, when I was doing stuff before I entered law, I saw the real estate world. I always took whatever anybody said and I cut it in half. And if I didn't believe them much, I cut it in half again. And those were actually generally pretty good ways of looking at stuff. And I'm inspired by people who sort of push themselves. It can drag you down. You think, oh my God, what are they doing?
Right.
And I'm not doing. And you just got to be careful because a lot of times it's not all what it seems from the outside.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is people need to have, their antenna up and they have to be listening. And and the thing is too, just because something works for another person in another practice area doesn't necessarily that it's going to mean the same thing to you and your practice areas, and it's not necessarily going to get the same results. I mean, let's face facts. I mean, if you think about it, America Online grew through direct mail. There was a lot of people who were saying direct mail was done at a time. The American Online went in. Groupon, its entire business model was basically an email list, right? I mean, that's what Groupon was. They sold access to an email list of millions of people. If you pick something and you go all in on it, and you do it the right way, you're going to get results for sure. The problem with coming out of a thing like Max LawCon, I think, is there's some shiny object stuff that people start chasing, and they don't necessarily, think it all the way through. And you have the critical skills to think it all the way through. One of the things that I thought was awesome on day two was Mike Albie's presentation about the different software that he uses. And what he's doing. He used a lot to talk about, what topics to create for content, how to identify what people are talking about online. One of the guys I was talking to, I told him, and I had posted about it either in the Guild or the big group recently, is scraping Avo for questions from the public. And I got someone came back to me and says, I can do you one better. Go on Reddit. There are forums about your local area and lawyers in your local area that you don't even know exist right now. So I went down the Reddit wormhole over the last, couple of days. And oh my God, I've got, 500 ideas for content we could be pushing out there and videos that are going to go on social and go on TikTok and all these wonderful things. But that's the thing. Like, I saw people out there also who were like, I got to get on TikTok. And if it's not your thing, just throwing up one TikTok video isn't gonna make it. I know there are people that are going to be successful at it.
And even Mike Albee, who's one of my favorites, who went viral. It's not like he's retiring off that.
Oh, definitely.
Monetizing, TikTok fame, and there are, again, places for everything. I think the people who have done this in certain niche markets, certain things like immigration with a longer sales cycle, where the personality comes through, maybe even family law, but some of the more transactional, criminal and PI, it's a much, much harder conversion.
Oh, absolutely.
The piece of advice I was given recently, though, was what you can do is take some of the experience you get with the organic social that you're so great with, and then picking from that what you want to pay for. Like what you want to put money behind, and using your organic social as the weather barometer to determine what is the best way to do it.
Well, that's actually one of the things that we launched at Max LawCon. For those who were not there at FirmFlex, we actually launched social sales funnels. So that was our big announcement at the conference. And so what we'll do, you can go on getfirmflex.com to find out more about it. But what we've actually done is we've gone out and Jen, my content person, has created 25 different ebooks that people can opt in for. And we'll actually set up, a trigger post, a video post, reviews carousel. We'll do all of that stuff and set up the whole funnel for you. And I think that's the thing to really amplify social is selectively spending money in the right places. There's no free play on social anymore. Hasn't been for years. But if you combine the organic stuff that you can do for free and you do this and you do the selective social funnels, you can really sort of amplify and get things. And sort of like you're going to want to have organic SEO, and you may want to supplement it with pay-per-click to get things happening. It's the wave of the future. But imagine being able to be on the one television station in town and get inside people's heads, and that's what social is all about. I mean, people are spending 4 hours a day on their phones, 3.5 of it in social media, and so it's like being on the one TV show in town, and you can get in their heads. So if you're not spending money on social, you better be. So other thing we want to talk about, Seth, before we call this one quits, is we want to start up a Maximum Growth Live Facebook group, because what we're seeing is we're getting distribution in John Fisher's group, in the Maximum Lawyer group, in our group. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to bring everybody together so we can have more constructive dialogue. We've got, thousands of people listening in all different places, even getting people on the podcast that are listening and sending in comments. But if we can have one place to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and get that set up. And hopefully by the time you're listening to this, you're going to search out and join the Maximum Growth Live Facebook group. And then Seth and I will be monitoring that group and engaging people in conversation. And I think, Seth, maybe you can add some people from Blue Shark there if people have digital questions as well. They can monitor it, because we want to give people the best of everything that we can give. And I'll of course, pipe in on anything social. What do you think about that?
No, that sounds great. It just, it's funny, when we set this up, we wanted to be able to make this interactive. So when we're having these conversations, people can sort of continue the conversation offline. They say that in a lot of forums, but I feel like we need to raise the bar. So that's our, we got a year before the next Max LawCon, number 4. They've already announced dates. Let's make sure that we have a vibrant community that can be, sharing and building on the growth strategies and digging down into those areas that we saw so much demand for out in St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're really all about, is helping your law firm grow and get to the scale that you want it to be at. I mean, I don't want the same thing that Seth over there wants. The idea of me having 40 lawyers in my office, I don't say it frightens me, but it just, that's not the vision. That's not the ideals that I want to have. I'm very happy with where I'm at. And that's what it's all about. Growing your firm is growing a firm that you want to have to give you the life that you desire. And that's really the most important thing. And I want to talk about that, vision, or, that sort of soul bearing thing, because, a lot of people have to address that question, Seth. but it's not something that's easily done. You almost have to go through a therapist type situation and talk about it. And that's something that I'd like to talk about in the coming weeks is how do you create that vision? What do you think about? Who are the players in the conversation? All that stuff matters. And so I think that's something that we should task for the coming episodes. And if you are in our Facebook group right now, set up a post, tell us down below about how did you come about your vision? Because maybe we'll get you here on another edition of Maximum Growth Live. But for now, Seth, I think that's a good show. I'm still a little tired from Maximum Law Con. It was a great event, but I got very little sleep.
You're tired. I had to Vegas for the weekend, so I just got back from MTMP, which was extraordinary.
Yeah, that's
the voice.
Well, let's talk about that next week. You kind of lost your voice, but I did. I'm 2 Max Law Cons in. I've given 4 presentations. I think maybe the next one I'll probably do 8 presentations at and try to just have a whole Jay Ruane track day. I'll just do mine over and over and over.
As there should be.
That would be exhausting. That would be absolutely exhausting. But I'm already thinking of ideas, things that I could teach people.
I got the slogan for it: all J, all the time.
All J, all day. There we go. I love it. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here live at Maximum Growth Live. Once again, thank you for being part of this journey with us, and thank you for tuning in each week. If you want to follow us, you can catch our podcast not only on the Maximum Lawyer podcast, but also on our own syndicated Maximum Growth Live podcast. Of course, if you want to catch us, you can catch us every Thursday here, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. And as always, if you want to catch up with Seth and his SEO Insider, you can catch that on the Blue Shark digital page. For me, my Max Law Con presentation was about systems, and I put up one slide during my show, during my presentation. I got like 75 new people to join our group, our Systemizing Your Law Firm for Growth Facebook group. And if you want to join that, certainly you can do so. And as always, we are here at FirmFlex and at Blue Shark. If you have any SEO or social, we're happy to take those calls and questions because we're really all about helping people out. Seth, I got nothing left. You got anything left for the people?
No.
Where are you off to next? What's your next conference?
I'm thankfully home. The team is going off to the next few, and I get to spend a little bit more time with the family in the new house.
Nice. Yeah, Seth just moved, everybody. He showed up at Max Law Con exhausted from moving and then put on a killer presentation with Tyson and really gave it his all. So when you get a chance to watch the videos, absolutely do it. Okay, that's going to do it for us right now. I am Jay Ruane. He is Seth Price. Bye for now.